What up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is the Infinity Midwife with you once again. So I hope you are having a good time. Y'all are doing what y'all supposed to do. Y'all are healing. Y'all are taking care of yourselves. Okay, I'm good. Okay. So welcome back to my channel, you guys. Like I said, like I promised, I was going to finish this series, which is a video, part of my story. So we are wrapping it up this week. My story part 10. This is what I'm gonna be sharing with you guys. How did I come out of that toxic relationship? How did I do that? Or how did I did that? How did I successfully not get caught in this pattern of codependency where, most of the time when you are in these type of relationship, it's really, really hard to get out because there's always the guilt that is being bribed, right? So we're going to talk about this today. I hope you guys are feeling all right. So I just want to mention, this is the last part of my story series. Next series that I will be starting will be about traditions, culture, especially that I'm from an African background. We're going to be dissecting some traditions, but also things in our culture that we need to start questioning, not only about the validity, the legitimacy, but also how does it impact us on a conscious level, on a more subconscious level, as individuals and as a collective as a whole, because yes, we do have all these practices that we like to share with the world, and it's so beautiful from the outside, but what are the real deep repercussions of those traditions and cultures that are still being rampant, or that are still, being promoted as healthy and as a necessity? But is it really on the individual, on the collective mind? Is it really healthy to propagate and to continue these traditions? That's going to be the next type of series that I will have for you guys. So stay tuned. If you haven't liked, if you haven't subscribed yet, there's the time to do it. So let's get into my story part 10. How did I come out of it? Okay, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people probably listen to part of my videos and they're like, what? She went through that shit? Like, how did she even come out? Because again, when you are in a relationship with a narcissist, or when you are in a toxic relationship, whether, in that relationship, you are the one who's doing the abuse, or you are on the receiving end of that abuse, it is really, really hard to come out of it. Okay, I'm going to share what I did in this video that really helped me to get out of it. Okay, mind you, in my personal experience, I had cut out all the people I've known. Not to be prideful or to have pride, but in me having to heal, I had to cut everybody on my list. Like, I had to distance myself from friends, from family, from relatives. Yes, that was part of the isolating tactic that my partner was had in mind or had planned, but it was also a blessing in disguise. Had I not be fully isolated, I would have probably, I would have not seen the real problem as it is. Because, sometimes in order to come out of the gutter, like when you hit rock bottom, when you have your families around, when you have your friends around, it's harder to point and to say, well, okay, well, something here is not right? Because you have this whole circle of people around you. It's really, sometimes it can get in the way of you actually recognizing what is toxic and what is not. okay? I was grateful to be completely and fully isolated. I know it's gonna sound contradictory, but it's not. Well, in my situation, I'll speak for myself, okay? So isolation was one of the things that really helped me, because when I was alone with myself, yes, I could have beat down, talked down to myself. I could, and I did. I could have played the victim, which I did at some point. I could have just beat down on myself and say, nobody's going to come and help me and save me. But then when you repeat yourself these things, there will be a point where you're going to have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, who is really going to come and help me? Is it going to be the psychotherapist? Is it going to be the psychiatrist? Is it going to be your children? Is it going to be a friend? Is it going to be someone from the sky coming in and helping you? No, it's going to have to be you. Ultimately, you're going to have to get up and be like, okay, what's going on here? You're going to have to question yourself. How did I end up to this point? How did I end up here? What were the decisions that I took in the past that brought me to this point? And that's the type of questioning. I started looking at myself and the decisions that I had made and the things that I've agreed upon that led me to that point. Because one of the things is this: had I not been in a very deep, dark place, I wouldn't have had the courage to look at myself. You know, I would have probably hide behind friends, hide behind family, hide behind, you know, all kinds of social construct, right? Because that's what attachment does to you at some point, right? It allows you to, yes, develop that feeling of belonging, but then if you're too much attached to those things, they can hinder you if you are actually going through a healing process. So I'm grateful that I was in a space where I was totally cut off from the external world so that I could address the underlying issues that were really happening in my day-to-day life. Okay? And it even came down to the point where I was like, the partner that I'm with, is that person really helping me in my healing process, or is that person hindering me in my healing process? And I had to question myself and look at the deep layers, right? And even come to the conclusion that the person who I was with was not there to help me in my healing process. It was actually the opposite, right? But I had to cut myself from a lot of distractions. I was not on social media. I had no more Facebook, Instagram. Like, all these things were cut. Because yes, there were some traumatizing events that had happened that had made me want to cut myself out of all these distractions. But even in the healing process, that brought a lot of clarity. Because again, I was not attached to any other social construct but myself. So I was lying deep into the rabbit hole, but I still had myself. So that's one of the things that really, really saved me. So detaching or have no social attachment whatsoever, that's number one. Number two is realizing that I still had me. And that's a big, big, big eye opener for me. It really was. Because had I not come to the conclusion that I was still alive, that I was still breathing, that I was still having hope to get better and to be better, I would have kind of collapsed on myself, okay? Number three, realizing that I had children, right? So, you know, a lot of us can go through some hard times, and then we want to blame the people around us for not being where we want to be in life. We want to blame everyone. And the fact that my circle was really, really small was my children, that ex-partner, and me. I've come to the realization that I had to take care of me. And I also had responsibilities in my immediate environment, and that were my children. My children still had to go to school. They still had to be loved. They still had to be cared for. They still had to, thrive in an environment where there was a lot of abuse, there was a lot of toxicity, and I had to provide. I had to step up. So that was a challenge, but overall, that was something I hung on to. Okay, it was my hope. My children were my hope. Even though every day was not an easy process, it was not an easy dealing with the children while you're going through your mental stresses, your mental traumas, your wounding, your own wounding, having to still stand by your children, for your children. That was hard. That was really hard. But every day I'd woken up, I'd be like, wow, my children are here. And they're still, they're still inquiring how mommy is doing, how mommy is feeling. Oh, they want this and they want that. Okay, I need to step up. Nobody's going to do it for me. Or if I don't, then at some point somebody's going to come in and take those children away, So I had to do a reality check and be like, listen, I'm going through whatever I'm going, but my children still need to be fed. They still need to be fed. They still need to be dressed, clothed, all of that. So that was my hope, that they were there, they were living, they were breathing, they were growing. And as much as I would have wanted to just not be in that space to provide for them, I had to. That was a reality check. That was my responsibility till this day, So that was number 3, realizing that I had responsibilities and that I could not get away from it. Yes, I could. I could have said, you know what? It's too much on my mind. I want to leave my children behind. But then I know that it would have not been a healing process had I had that idea of leaving my children behind. Yes, probably in other circumstances, I would have probably want to take a week off and, had I had some sort of help, but it was not that in my case. Trust me, I'm still holding on to that idea that at some point I am going to take a small vacation for myself. Okay? So that was something I had to realize. Responsibilities, daily responsibilities. My children were my daily responsibilities. And in those responsibilities, I found hope of a better tomorrow. Other thing that I've come to, because, in that healing process, a lot of things that I started doing was because I had learned it from this emotional wellness facilitation program that I had taken years prior, probably 3 years ago, or 4 even, or maybe 5. I don't remember exactly, but I know that I took a class about emotional wellness and how to help other women, pregnant women, because again, I used to be a doula or a birth coach. I still am, but just not practicing anymore, and a herbalist as well. So there was a lot of notions that came in for me at that time when I was struggling with my own emotions, and I was uncovering layers of emotional wounding I had. So one of the things I did was journaling every morning, and I still do till this day. Journaling helped me tremendously to start creating a reality for myself. Again, I was in that space of, because there was a lot of emotional projection being put on me. There was a lot of not victimization, but there was a lot of gaslighting. There was a lot of questioning my own sanity, that journaling became a point of reference for me to recognize, okay, this is what I did today. I can go back to this book at that time. I know exactly what I did. I know exactly what I was thinking. I know exactly what was racing through my mind. This is how close I became to journaling. Journaling was a part of my healing process. Journaling was me coming back to my reality. Because again, I had totally no point of reference as to what was my truth and what was not my truth. So I was constantly writing. What was I feeling? what was I doing, the time that I was doing it at, because the manipulation was so intense and heavy, to the point that even in my dream state, I felt like I could not tell whether I was dreaming, whether I was in real time doing something. So there was a thin line between losing my sanity and being in this real time existence dimension, because again, there was a lot of manipulation and all of that. So I had to hold on to some sort of truth, and that truth became my journaling. So I started writing everything that came through my mind, how I felt about certain things, what type of emotion I was feeling. And so I like doing that really brought me back to a sense of reality, that I'm existing. That when I go to sleep, I go to sleep. When I wake up, I wake up. When I do whatever I say that I do it. And this is the time, this is the proof, this is the reference. I had to leave traces. Otherwise, I was going to be manipulated into thinking that I was dissociating, that I was amnesiac, that I was doing all these things that was projected from the other person. Okay, so that was a real game changer in my healing. Another one is being grateful. So I started installing those little rituals, those daily rituals that I practice till today. And one of them is my gratitude lines. So it's to speak into existence. What is it that I'm grateful for? You know, I can spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes throughout the day reminding myself, what am I grateful for? What am I grateful for in that moment and at that time? It could be one thing, it could be several things, just for me to stay in the present moment. Because again, there was so much being projected. There was so much in the environment that was illusions, that I had to remind myself to be grounded. So yes, journaling helped me doing that, to stay grounded, but also being grateful. So my gratitude lines, or speaking gratitude into existence, allowed me a lot to bring back my focus from whatever chatter that was going on in my mind to like being focused to my present, to my reality right now. That was the big one. And I still do it up to this day. Another thing that I did that really, really did help me get back to or progress on my healing journey was to do something that I love to do. And because I was in a really, really dark space, I had to come up, I had to rethink of the things that I loved to do when I was younger. Listening to music was one of them. Dancing in front of the mirror is one of them. And baking. So I started baking like at night, because I didn't want to go to sleep, or you know, my attention was just all over the place. I would go in the kitchen and start baking, whether it was cookies, whether it was banana bread, whatever it was, or I was inspired to do. I would go in the kitchen and just make it. And that really helped me to see that I was still a creative being. I could still create something that's delicious, something that's sweet, something that's edible. My children love it. So that was boosting my confidence. Okay? That was a major key into healing and into recognizing that I was worthy. Because again, the underlying feeling was unworthiness. Unworthiness followed me since childhood. And so one of the things to help me on my healing journey was doing the things that would bring me some sort of confidence, some sort of, sorry guys, some sort of confidence, but also a sense of worthiness. So baking is one of the things that really helped me up till this day. You know, I can bake, I can go in the kitchen, just follow once a recipe and I know it by heart. Like, I'll throw down in the kitchen, okay? And that really helped me boost my confidence. Okay, so I'm not gonna go over all the things that I said. Hopefully it did help you at some point. Take whatever resonated with you and then leave the rest behind, or probably share with somebody that needs to hear this. You can get out of a toxic relationship. You just have to know that you're worthy, okay? And that you know, there's a whole lot of things that I started putting in place. Those are just one of the things I just mentioned. But I'm working on a program, on an emotional wellness program, where I help women or individuals just, you know, be inspired to bring themselves back to life, okay? Because, you know, one of the reasons why I call myself the Infinity Midwife, yes, I used to help women prepare for pregnancy and childbirth, but one of the things that I realized is that I do take a lot of the things that are hidden, and that's what I did in my healing process. You know, looking at the things that are hidden, that are laying dormant in our shadow, but it's causing a whole lot of havoc in our daily lives, right? And just bring it into the light. Bring it to our conscious mind. See where, you know, where we are hiding those deep secrets in our shadows, and just shedding light on it. Because when we do that, we're no longer being controlled by a part of ourselves that wants to be fully expressed, that wants to be seen. But because of the fears, because of our own stories that we keep, you know, we keep dear in our hearts and in our minds, you know, we leave them in some place, and then, you know, when we don't know how to attend to those things, well then, you know, we're just emotionally imbalanced, and we are not using our whole intelligence as we should. So our shadow is usually there to remind ourselves that, you know, we have to befriend our shadows ultimately, because when we do, we are more empowered. So we give away less power to people to manipulate us, to make us think things, to make us do things. We are more in control, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to hold your shadow by the horns, but it's just to embrace and to befriend and to recognize that, yes, we all have things that we like to hide about ourselves, that we don't really want to look at, that is maybe hard for us to look at. But when we do, we become empowered, and we become strength, you know what I mean? And we can balance those things out. But it's not an easy thing. I'm going to say that. It's not an easy process. And so that's why, by calling myself the Infinity Midwife, is that I shed light on the aspect of ourselves that we need to bring into the light in order to be whole, to feel whole. And so that we don't have, like, by doing that, you know, by befriending our shadow, we become accountable. And when we do that, you know, everything else just falls in place. And when you become accountable to your own self, there's a lot of bullshit you won't take anymore from nobody else, because you know you've done the work. You know you've done the work. You know you've been down that road. You know you saw some scary fucking demons that were there to scare the shit out of you. But then when you realize it was just a part of myself that needed healing, then you feel more powerful. So thank you, you guys. That was my story in 10 short videos. I know this one is long, but hopefully you've gained something from it. You've gained some knowledge. You can probably share it with some friend or some family members, or even for yourself, you know, because we all carry that within us. We do. So that being said, guys, I'm gonna leave y'all this video, this series, and I will embark on this new series. We're gonna dive deep. We're gonna look at the traditions and the cultures that will, how to say this? Cultures and traditions that are hindering our individuality, in a sense that it creates even bigger shadows for individuals and collective, for my African brothers and sisters. And probably we need to rethink as to how we are creating those humongous shadows upon ourselves, upon our collective, and how we can probably let go of some traditions, let go of some cultures or some practices that are no longer helping us being whole, walking on this earth, right? We need to be empowered. So let's do it. Let's take our power back. Let's look at the things that are no longer helping us grow, is what I'm saying. Take care, you guys. Take care. Bye.